Boston College and Clemson, longtime rivals. BC has not beaten Clemson in over 10 years. Will this be the weekend that it happens? We're going to talk about it.
You are Locked On College Crossover, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the special edition of Locked On Boston College and Locked On Clemson Crossover. My name is AJ Black of Eagle Insider, part of the 247 Network. If you've been looking for Boston College news, Clemson news, you're in the right spot. We are both free daily Boston College and Clemson podcasts, free and available on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more with FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $5 if your bet wins. You'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Download the app today. We got a special edition today. I told you, crossovers here. We're going to be talking predictions and final thoughts for the Clemson-BC game. BC, is it a free fall or are they almost there? And Clemson, I think, better than the record shows. And to talk about it, you got me from AJ Black from Locked On BC and Morgan Thomas from Locked On Clemson. Morgan, how's it going?
Good. Thanks for having me. I'm pretty excited about this game and you seeing the team, what they can do traveling up to Boston.
So the O'Rourke McFadden Trophy started in 2008 by both of the booster clubs from Clemson and Boston College. I was looking it up earlier today. Clemson has won it every single year except for 2010. So it's been a while since BC has beaten Clemson in this matchup. But Clemson, 2-3, tough record to start the year, but a tough schedule to start the year. Obviously, I would say that they're the best 2-3 team in college football right now. How has the season gone? And, you know, a big win over Bill Belichick, a career ending win, it looks like it could be. How are things going right now with Dabo and the Clemson Tigers?
Well, you know, it hasn't been a great season. 2-3 is not what anybody expected or really wanted for this team. They're still trying to figure out a lot. And the game against North Carolina was, in a lot of ways, two teams with similar problems. You know, Clemson doesn't really know what their identity is on offense. You know, they really don't know who they need to go to at certain times yet still. And their quarterback is just not one, in Cade Klubnik, he's not one that can really win a game or get you out of a bad play or a bad scenario. He needs a lot of things to go right for him to do really well. And it just hasn't been that way this year on offense. And on defense, the team got better, but what's happened is the defense really has been struggling to get any pressure in the backfield. You know, we thought that this defensive line would be extremely strong and wreak a lot of havoc. And it just really hasn't been that case. And so it's caused the secondary to be exposed more than you would really like.
Now, yeah, you mentioned Cade Klubnik. Let's talk a little bit about him. You said he hasn't done enough that you would expect from him. And I think, honestly, there was a lot of people this offseason that had him as a Heisman favorite. You know, there's a lot of expectations, especially when you have Antonio Williams and Bryant Wesco out there. You know, what has it been in terms of the disappointment about him that not being able to perform to the level that you might have expected him to?
I attribute it to his footwork and his eyes. But really, you could probably put a lot of the same blame on the offensive line. It's we hired, or Clemson brought in Matt Luke, former offensive lineman coach from Georgia in their national championship team. And so they felt like that he would be able to improve this team. And a lot of the discussion when he came in was, well, he's got a lot of good clay that he can mold and build. It doesn't really seem to have worked out that way. Now people are saying, well, he just needs his players. So what is it? Is it he's able to work with the clay he has, or is it that he just needs new clay? You know, I'm a little bit frustrated from a fan standpoint, just because you know, you weren't going to expect an offensive line that really only lost the left guard to regress this much. But that being said, Cade Klubnik hasn't helped either. He's not stayed in the pocket. He's thought he could scramble and make plays that he just can't make. Some of it is just sitting in the pocket and taking sacks and making throws when you know you're going to get hit. That's what the professionals do, and that's what he's got to do is stop scrambling so much and bailing. And when he did that against the Tar Heels, he was able to spread the ball around to 13 different receivers. But I did a radio show last night, and a lot of the fan base, they like that, but there's still also this, it's the Tar Heels under Bill Belichick, who, as you mentioned earlier, may not even be the coach anymore. So it is a team in shambles. So you should have success. So it's kind of hard to say what that winning that game really did.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, any win is going in the right direction, but you got to build on that, right? So you're playing a BC team that has lost 4 games in a row. It's been a tough sledding, and obviously they just got shellacked on Saturday by Pitt. Things are not going well. Defensively, you mentioned Peter Woods. You've got some other good defenders, especially at linebacker and some in the secondary. How has the defense kind of lived up to expectations this year? And did you see them, take a step in the right direction against UNC in terms of getting to where they need to be?
I think that the defense took a step in the right direction. One, because Tom Allen moved from the box, which he traditionally likes to do, to coach from the box to the sideline. He's really too energetic, too in your face of a personality to put in a box. I don't know why that was even an idea based on his personality, but it works much better when he's out on the field, and the players kind of feed off of that energy that he has. If you ever talk to him, I mean, he barely has a voice, so he's that type of person that's just high energy, very vocal. And so having him on the field really got a quick feedback with the team that they were doing the right things, but also having the boss around, you don't play as lazy, you play a little bit more with an extra level. You're not as lazy as maybe you were when he was up in the box. And so the defense kind of reset. We saw some bright spots from Avion Terrell, the cornerback position. We saw a bright spot in Stephylan Green, a younger defensive tackle, who we didn't expect to be a starter, but now has become a starter at the defensive tackle position, opposite of Peter Woods. So really the crazy thing is that Peter Woods and TJ Parker, the two guys that you thought would be in the backfield getting, 50 sacks this year, have been very, very quiet so far. But when you go back and look at the film, it's not that they're slacking off or anything like that. It's just the plays haven't come their way like we maybe have thought. They are still warranting double teams. Most of the time, Peter Woods gets a double team or at least a chip. Same thing for TJ Parker. So they are commanding respect from the offensive line, but they're just not getting anything in the stat sheet.
Now, you mentioned we've talked a lot about, not living up to expectations. And I've, a couple of weeks ago, it seemed like there was a lot of negative publicity towards Dabo Swinney and just kind of hitting him hard for the way he viewed, the transfer portal and just the kind of his old school mentality. How are fans taking that in Death Valley, and how are they, looking at Dabo's in his future with Clemson?
Well, Dabo's not going to get fired ever. He'll be He'll be retired, or he'll be moved into an administrative role. That is never going to happen. But what I would say is that fans are a little bit concerned with the fact that the team seems to be lacking some depth. They seem to be. It seems to be relevant or evident that Georgia Techs of the world, Florida States of the world, even Syracuse's of the world, they're refreshing their team. Even the Louisville or the LSU team had refreshed their team at a faster rate than Clemson. And so when you go primarily high school recruiting, that is a 3-4 year commitment for every single player. And that was okay when most everybody else was also doing that. Now the top 10 teams in the country have about 14 transfer portal guys that actually rotate and contribute to the team immediately. And Clemson brought in 3 this year, which was a huge shock for the fan base. Unfortunately, though, they really didn't use 3. They only used one of them, which was Will Helt from Purdue, for the first 3 games, until finally, after just about everybody in the upstate of South Carolina complained, they started using Jeremiah Alexander and Tristan Smith more frequently in this last game. And the defense, as you asked me earlier, integrated him more. I think one of Tom Allen's problems is he wants to do the 4-2-5. And Clemson's always been a 4-3 defense. Mm-hmm. So the players and the personnel that he has wasn't really a nickel defense. They needed that extra linebacker to get the pressure. And so they haven't gotten that, and it's exposed their secondary a lot with the man coverage on the outside. So this past game against the Tar Heels, he did 4-2-5. He did a 4-6. He did a 3-3-5. He did a 4-3. He did a 3-4. He did a bunch of different looks, is what I'm trying to say. And it seemed to work out better when he had more linebackers out there. So maybe that's something that they can continue doing as they keep going. But as far as Dabo, the main concern is not that they want a different coach. The fans want a different coach. It's just really that they want the coach they have to start to use that other player market a little bit more. They need to refresh guys faster. The day and age of waiting around for offensive linemen or linebackers to get ready after 4 years is just not possible anymore. It's too slow.
All right, Morgan, in a moment, I'm going to let you take the host chair and ask me about Boston College, and we'll get into that in just a moment. When the opening whistle blows on a new repair, get your crew moving forward with Supply House. Order today and see parts on your doorstep tomorrow. Over 280,000 plumbing, HVAC, and electrical items from the most trusted brands in the business. Their real-time inventory and honest lead times keep you from punting projects, while their industry-leading customer service always has your blind side covered. Never need parts fast for a project? Supply House has next-day delivery. Talk about a game changer. And the part tool finder and 3D schematics can save you hours on the job where every detail matters. Join the free Trademark Master program today and score serious perks like priority shipping, lower prices, and a dedicated support line. Visit supplyhouse.com to sign up for free and use promo code SHCollege5 for 5% off your order. That's supplyhouse.com, code SHCollege5, real people, real service. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel has an offer you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love FanDuel right now. This is the most exciting time of the season to use it because you can do college sports, you can do football, you can do NFL, college, NHL preseason. It's all right there. And if you want to do parlays, it's super easy to use. I love using a Sunday night parlay. Whatever the Sunday night game is, I might pick a rushing touchdown, the over-under on the game. It's all right in front of me, and it's so easy to use. Even if you're a beginner, you can get yourself started immediately. And whether you're a casual fan or love diving into stats, FanDuel makes the game day experience so much better. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get yourself started. Locked On crossover between Locked On BC and Locked On Clemson here. I'm AJ Black, joined by Morgan Thomas, and I'm going to jump into the guest chair now and let Morgan run things here. And Morgan, floor is yours, man.
Yeah, so I guess the first thing is, kind of what's the overall thought on the team and where they are at so far. I mean, they're 1-4 overall. They've lost 3 ACC games so far. I know from a Clemson standpoint, losing ACC games is extremely frustrating, and it gets the fan base pretty hot and heated on our side. Does Boston College have that same feeling so far?
Oh yeah, it's a mess. to be blunt. So the season started off. You played Fordham. That game doesn't really count. It's just an FCS game. You go to Michigan State, you're an underdog, you bring them to double overtime. You felt good after that. Like Dylan Lonergan looked great. Your offense was clicking. You had issues, but it was okay. Like you lost, you played well, you chalk that up. You then have to travel across country to Stanford, who many projected to not win a single ACC game. And they smacked you around a little bit in the second half. And all of a sudden you're thinking, okay, what the heck is going on with this program? They just lost to Stanford. This is not good. Their quarterback wasn't anything to write home about. Their players aren't all that great, but yours looked worse. Then you have Cal at home. Now, Bill O'Brien had only lost one game at home in the last year and a half. And Cal, that you're battling back and forth. You take the lead with, I think it was a minute 30. It was like only a few minutes left in the game. And then you let up a touchdown. They throw a 50-yard touchdown pass on blown coverage, which was an issue all game long. And you get the ball back. And again, you march down. You had the ball at the 5-yard line with like 30 seconds left. And Dylan Lonergan throws an interception into the end zone. So the fans were starting to melt down there. But the true meltdown didn't start until last weekend, where the team just looked completely checked out against Pitt. It was hard to talk about anything positive about that game because everything was bad. The tackling was bad. Lonergan looked awful. They couldn't run the football. They couldn't get any pressure. The defense looked like they had no idea what was going on at times, where there was blown coverages and there was guys that just were looking around. And a lot of that has to do with injuries. I think that's a big piece, and I don't want to make excuses for them. But just for instance, against Pitt, they were missing their starting linebacker. They're the one that wears the dot. They were missing their starting edge rusher who led the team in sacks. They were missing their 2 starting cornerbacks. They were missing a defensive tackle. They were missing the backup linebacker that was going to play for the starter. So the defense was playing a lot of young guys that really hadn't had a lot of experience. That being said, even if they're young, they still look like they had no idea what they were doing. And that was a big problem. So the frustration is starting to really build in Chestnut Hill just because it looked and seemed like they had checked out on O'Brien, and it's only week 5 of the season. So that was a big problem.
That's one thing that Clemson fans were worried about is checking out on the season, considering you were hoping to get to the playoffs. That doesn't seem a possibility now unless you get to the ACC championship game. Well, it's even more difficult to get to the ACC championship game when you've lost 2. As we know from last season, they had to sneak their way in with just 1 ACC loss. So having 2 this season so early on makes it extremely difficult for Clemson. I think, according to teamrankings.com, it would be an absolute miracle for Clemson to be 8-4 by the end of the season. For Boston College, though, I will say Dabo came out, and he's been saying this and been frustrating fans by saying this, but he came out and said he believes that outside of the Pitt game, that Boston College was just a few plays away from, being really a one-loss team. Would you agree with that, or do you think that's coaches speak? Because Clemson fans just kind of chalk that up to old Dabo doing his old, coaches speak.
No, I think he's right. I think that's exactly it. I mean, the Cal game, it went down to the blown coverage against the tight end, Mason Minnie. They had that game. If they had I think it was 4th down when they had it. So that was a blown play. That lost them. Against Michigan State, it was a fumble. They had 2 straight games with fumbles on the 1-yard line in 1-score games. That again, it's inexcusable mistakes, as Bill calls them. Catastrophic failures or catastrophic mistakes, but they had a catastrophic mistake in those first 3 games. So Dabo's right. And Bill keeps saying the same thing. Like, it's those 1 or 2 plays every single game. You got to teach your team how to win. You got to teach them not to lose, because in games for a team like Boston College, it comes down to those, like, who is more mentally prepared and who is better equipped to end those games on the right notes. And right now it's not BC. BC has not figured that out yet.
Well, that makes me feel good about Clemson going to Boston College and actually Massachusetts and actually doing this and winning this game, because really before this week or before the Pittsburgh game, I looked at Dylan Lonergan as a guy who could light up Clemson through the air and really push Clemson's secondary. As I mentioned, Clemson has been struggling to get pressure from the defensive line, and it's been exposing their secondary into cover 1, cover 0 situations where the quarterback has had a lot of time. If Steve Angeli had not gotten hurt, and I mean, I feel so terrible that he got hurt because, I think he could have possibly been the best quarterback in the ACC if he wasn't hurt. But I felt like that what happened with Syracuse and Steve Angeli, Dylan Lonergan could have done the same thing. He's got Lewis Bond, who is the chain moving guy. He's got Reed Harris, who's kind of a deep threat. He's got a tight end that always seems to give problems to Clemson as the tight end in Franklin. So to me, I was going into this game up until the Pitt game,
Mm-hmm.
I was going into this game thinking, okay, this could be one of those games where I'm not taking the spread here because this is going to be a close one. This is going to be, and now it's a night game, and it's going to be below 60, little chill in the air. I mean, it just kind of sets up for one of those games. I mean, 78% of yardage is coming from passing the ball. And if Clemson doesn't get any pressure, here's my question here. I don't know much about Boston College's offensive line. Are they the typical Boston College offensive line that's going to shut you down? No. Or is there some cracks there that maybe Clemson could get pressure?
They've been pretty decent in pass pro. They've got a good group there. The major issue, and it all snowballs downhill to everything you just mentioned, is their run blocking has been atrocious. I don't know what is going on there. Like, they can block and they keep Lonergan on his feet, but the big issue is they can't run the ball. And then when they can't run the ball, then defenses just queue up on the pass, and that causes Lonergan, who's just learning, a lot of issues because he can't keep them honest. So one of the big questions that people had about, at least I had about Bill O'Brien, was the Cal game. Against Cal, for the first three games, BC could not run the football to save their life. Even against Fordham, they couldn't run the ball. Jude Bowery, who is their star left tackle, was hurt for the Cal game. You'd think that would be a bad thing, but they were able to switch some guys around. They moved Logan Taylor from guard to tackle. He's like 6'7", probably a better fit for him. They brought in a true freshman, Robert Smith, and hey, Turbo Richards ran for 175 yards in the game. Like, they ran it. And so then Pitt comes along, they put Jude Bowery back in, they moved Logan Taylor back to guard, and then they can't run the ball again. It's like, you go with what is working. They had it going. So Bill said, he's been saying he's thinking of change, he's looking at everything from the top down and changes because they've lost 4 in a row. If I'm Boston College, I go back, leave Bowery out there, bench Kevin Klein, and put Logan Taylor where it's at, because if you want Lonergan to be able to throw the football, you got to make especially a team like Clemson that doesn't need to blitz when you have good players out there. You need to keep them honest with the run. And against Pitt, who not a bad defensive line at all, they didn't respect it at all because they didn't have to. And so that caused Lonergan all these issues. And I think if Clemson watches that game film, they're going to do the exact same thing, and Lonergan's going to have fits again.
Yeah, I mean, it's never good when your most recent game gives you a big blueprint on how to attack a team. Mm-hmm. When it comes to Clemson's offense, I feel like they're a little bit all over the place. We originally, Clemson's like Garrett Riley and their offensive coordinator kind of forgot to run the ball as well. And so we have a wide receiver turn running back in Adam Randall. And, for the first game against LSU, they didn't use him in the second half at all. And then, what he's turned into has been this really nice X factor the past couple of games. Clemson actually didn't have a lot of success against the Tar Heels running the ball, only 89 yards. But Adam Randall is just one of those guys you can't be stopped, because he'll go out in a wheel route. He'll go out in a screen. He'll go out in the flats, and he'll just seem to kind of squeak his way out in some open space. A lot like what Travis Etienne used to do when Trevor Lawrence was here, and what he's still doing in the NFL. Mm-hmm. So I like what they have with Adam Randall and that versatility. It kind of stinks for Boston College. You got this guy, his name's Turbo Richard. Turbo. Mm-hmm. And you can't run the ball. I mean, it's almost like it's a disservice to his name to do so. Yep. So if you're Clemson, going back to the offensive side of the ball, do you feel as if they will attack through the air? Because obviously I'm thinking that Boston College is attacking Clemson through the air. Do you think that Clemson should attack Boston College through the air, or should they try to start with the run game?
For Clemson, I would start with through the air. I mean, it's all cyclical with BC. The issue with BC's defense has been a problem all year. As I mentioned, the injuries, right? So BC has two choices in the secondary. They can either play Isaiah Ferris and Max Tucker. Max Tucker, who looked like he had a cast on his arm and really had trouble tackling, or they go with the freshmen who are raw, which is against Antonio Williams and Brian Wesco is a big problem. So they have those guys out there, and you can scheme around that and try to get it to work. But the big issue is your front four for BC's defense can't get any pressure. And Bill said this over and over again. They just can't get pressure. They don't have horses up there. They don't have the right guys to do it. So that's been a problem. So they have to blitz. When they blitz, they leave those young guys on islands by themselves. They can't hold on long enough, so they either get burned or they get called for PIs. It happens all the time. And I don't know what the injury status of some of these guys are. Like getting, starting cornerback Amari Jackson, who could be back. I honestly don't know. Or Davion Crouch, their star linebacker, back. Those would be huge pieces for BC just in terms of just getting some talent back. But that's a big issue. And then once they get that going, you put the pressure on the run because BC stunts a ton up front. And again, when they stunt, it works a lot, but a lot of time you'll see a few, the run defense will work okay. They worked pretty well against Pitt, but it just takes one run where they stunt it, then a hole gets opened, and then it's a huge explosive. It happened against Stanford. It happened against Cal. It's this problem. They just don't have the talent there on defense, more so than the offense. I think the offense is there. I think it's more of a scheme issue with them. The talent on defense is a major problem right now. And yes, some of it's due to injuries, but I think there's other issues going on as well.
Especially when you look, KP Price, for example, leading the team in tackles. You really never, that's nice that he's kind of a go-getter. He goes to the ball, but you never really want your defensive back in your secondary to be your leading tackler. That's not ideal. You'd rather have it be like your linebacker. You don't want him to get to that last level of defense. So kind of lines up with what you're saying. And Clemson has a lot of the same problems too, which is kind of interesting this year for the Tigers. They just, seem to have some of the same problems that a team is kind of trying to find their own way, and not a team that was supposed to be like this team that was a playoff contender. You want to go to segment 3 and talk about our final predictions and give our thoughts and how we think this game is going to shake out?
Let's do it, Morgan. We'll be back in just a moment to give our predictions. Hang tight. We'll be right back. Mazda crafts cars for those who do more than simply move. Mazda delivers confidence with every ride with more IIHS Top Safety Pick Plus awards than anyone else as of August 2025. From footwork to breathwork, athletes sweat all the details. Mazda brings the same intention to how we craft every model, and you can make everyday drives feel like anything but, from smooth handling to intuitive controls. Like our players, we sweat every detail, because when you make every move count, impossible becomes irrelevant. Mazda. Move and be moved. One of the tools that helps make a great difference for business owners is Quo, formerly OpenPhone. It's the same great business phone system you've heard me talk about before, just with a new name, and here's why it matters. Every missed call is money left on the table. When every customer conversation counts, you need a phone system that keeps you connected 24/7. Quo is the #1 business phone system that streamlines computer communication with your customers. It works right through an app on your phone or computer, so no more carrying 2 phones or relying on a landline. I love how Quo, formerly known as OpenPhone, lets your team share one number and collaborate on calls and texts, like a shared inbox, so no customer gets left hanging. See why over 90,000 businesses trust Quo, formerly OpenPhone. Get started free and get 20% off your first 6 months at quo.com/lockedoncollege. That's QUO.com/lockedoncollege. And if you've got existing numbers with another service, Quo will port them over at no additional charge. Quo, no missed calls, no missed customers. This is Locked On Boston College. AJ Black of Eagle Insider, joined by of Locked On BC. I write for Eagle Insider, joined by Morgan Thomas of Locked On Clemson. And we're talking about the Clemson BC game, and we're giving our predictions. And I had a guest on earlier this week, Morgan. He's a writer on my site who guest showed giving basically the feel of BC fans dressed completely in Joker gear with all the face paint and everything. He surprised me with this just because things are just that dire in Chestnut Hill. Would you like to make your prediction first, or would you like me to get all dark on you?
I think the Joker thing works great because, Clemson and Dabo Swinney played a clip from Batman about, basically where Batman was kind of tied up and he didn't remember who he was and he thought he was trapped. And then finally he remembered that he's Batman, that he has all this strength and power, and he broke free of the chains. And he felt like that was what Clemson was like, is that they forgot who they were and forgot how talented they were. And it's not just the team as a whole, it's specific players, but literally everyone. And I can agree with that. So maybe you do want to come out with the Joker look and make it a big thing. I think that would be really fun. This is one of those games again, where if you would have asked me 2 weeks ago, I would have said, you're probably going to see a win from Boston College here. After the Pitt game, it kind of made me take a step back because we don't really know the availability. Hopefully we'll know, I guess, I think they release it closer to game time, right? So
Thursday night,
we'll know a little bit better. Maybe we'll know a little bit better by game time what the availability report is actually for Boston College. Clemson's not that bad. No significant injuries, in my opinion, so far. So, but Boston College is definitely that, because if you're losing key players like you were, and it causes you to get blown out like you did at Pitt, then I would say, okay, I feel more comfortable taking Clemson to cover the spread of 14.5. But I'm just so jaded by the Tigers because they beat the Tar Heels, but it was really only one good quarter. The second, the third, the fourth quarter was kind of something to change the channel about, really. But Dabo too wanted to play his backups because he hadn't been able to, and he wanted to get some film on them. But it wasn't really that good. So the depth is kind of like, you don't really want to see them. If you look at the expert picks, if you look at the computer picks, it's supposed to be a close game. It's supposed to be like 24-30. Clemson wins, so within the spread for sure. So if you're looking at a computer standpoint, I would probably pick Boston College to win, or Boston College to win with the spread for sure. To me, it all goes back to that pressure. Can Clemson's defensive line really get any kind of pressure on Lonergan? I don't want to see a game where for an hour Lonergan just passes all over Clemson like Steve Angeli did. I don't want to see that. That would be a nightmare. So to me, Clemson needs to get to him, disrupt that, and get some turnovers. I'd like to see a couple of sacks. I'd like to see 1 or 2 turnovers as well. If that's the case, then I would probably take Clemson to cover the spread and to get close to 40. But this offense is so inconsistent that typically getting in the 30s is like a huge achievement. So for me, I'm going to say Clemson wins, but close to the spread. I think Vegas is pretty good. I think they maybe win by 10. So maybe like a 21-30, or like maybe a 34-20, something like that. I don't know. I'm not really good at score predictions, but it definitely seems like maybe they keep it, right around that spread mark.
All right. I'll do my Joker. You know how I got these scars? This one is missed tackling, and this one is turnovers, and this one. Anyways, I'm done with making my Joker impressions. I've seen enough of what BC has and can do. I get Clemson has had their issues. I have watched worse offenses march up and down on BC's defense. I've watched their offense struggle against worse defenses. So I have families and coaches and all sorts of stuff that I know listen to my show. They're going to get pissed at me for this one. I'm going with Clemson like 38-10 in this. I don't have any faith in BC in this game until and this is not me trashing them. This is me saying, until Boston College can show me that I'm wrong, this is what I'm going to do until I am proven wrong. This game particularly, as you said, like beginning of the year, up until Pitt, I was like, BC might be able to hang in this game. And hey, maybe they will fix some of these issues. Maybe they'll get a few guys back, and that will be the difference maker to keep this close. I've watched BC defenders flail around on tackles, take horrible angles. I just see some big explosives coming for Cade Klubnik, and I got BC losing big in this one. So that's my prediction.
Well, I'll take it. I mean, Clemson needs it. That's for sure. Yep. The confidence they need the confidence building because they've got to win out just to get to 9-3, which is uncharted territory for Dabo for the past almost 15 years.
All right, let's wrap things up, Morgan. Where can people find you?
Yeah, well, I do Locked On Clemson, so you can find that wherever you listen to podcasts and on YouTube as well. And then in between episodes, you can always talk to me over on X at the Morgan T Show. And if you are happen to be wanting to listen to some Clemson sports radio talk, I'm on 105.5 The Roar on the app, or if you're in the upstate ever in South Carolina, you can always listen to me there.
And you guys can find me on X at AJBlack247. I'm available on every social media app, whether it's TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. Just look up Locked On BC, Eagle Insider AJ Black. You will find me there. Check me out on Locked On BC and daily. I will go live after the game from the press box at BC. We'll do a postcast of the show, of the game. I'll be there to talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly. And I'll be back again tomorrow's episode with Mitch Wolf. He will not be in Joker makeup, I promise you, tomorrow, to talk about our thoughts of the games. He's been watching a lot of film. He'll talk about what he saw in the Pitt game, give us some final thoughts there. From Morgan, this is AJ. Thank you for making us your first listen every single day. And for Locked On Clemson, this is Locked On BC, your team every day.